Now that we got our website, we need to connect this site with the database that we have created. Just remember that you should have 3 tables: idioms, language, and tones. Let's start. First, I'm going to create a new file, name it as a config.php, save in the same folder, and don't forget PHP. Now, we are going to set up the connection with the database. Start with a PHP code, and I'm going to define the database name. It's called idioms. User is going to be root, the password, and finally I'm going to define the localhost. Our localhost is localhost. Save, and we need to include this on top of our index. I'm going to open a PHP code. I'm going to include our config.php that we just developed. I'm going to create a variable called database connect, which include the database host, the user, the password, and the database name. This function will allow me to do the connection. Now, with a conditional, I'm going to check if was any error in our connection. If it was an error, it's going to print fail, and it's going to exit. Otherwise, I'm going to print connection successful. Don't forget semicolon and save. We are going to do the test, refresh, and we got it. A message that said our connection was successful. I'm going to delete the last part. We don't need always checking. And I'm going to add one more line, set the character set that we are going to use. This is a standard for the website. Now, every time that you are going to find any term, you are going to press find, and after you notice here is addressing to the all search PHP page. What we are going to do now is create the file, new file, all search PHP, and save in the same folder after previous page. Here we're going to create the PHP. It's going to be a quick search and start asking if is set something in the search button. If that happens, what we are going to do is create a variable called to find, where we are going to request, we are going to collect the data from the box that we typed before. I'm going to create the condition of what we are going to find. This means it's going to be another variable called SQL condition, and here is what we are going to bring. We are going to select where in my table called idiom there is something like the variable that we are going to try to find in our database. Finally, I'm going to create 2 variables to include and to display the title with search result for the word that the user introduced in the box. And finally, I'm going to add the helping text. To do the search, we need to call this function that is called getQuery and need the database and the condition. This is the condition that we have. Once this function runs, it's going to return 2 values, the query, all the information that found, and the number of information. I'm going to close my PHP, and in my HTML, I'm going to create a tag where I'm going to print the heading. That means here is going to be a test that say quick search result for, and also the number of results that we found. Before to continue and testing, we need to create this function. For that, I'm going to save here, new file, and it's going to be called functions. And as always, one function, we are going to start with the words function and the name that we did it before, getQuery, that is taking the database and the condition. Before to start, I'm going to simplify the way that I'm calling the idiom stamp, the tones, and language. I'm going to use UTL, and that way is going to allow me to simplify how to write the instructions. Now I'm going to say from idioms, what we are going to select is join the tones with the ID and with the tone ID for the idioms table. Now what I'm doing is saving all these conditions inside of the find SQL. Now we are going to do the query using the MySQL query command to find the information that we are looking for, and the same to count how many rows we found. Finally, we return an array with the count and the query. Save. And before to continue, we need to include this function in our index. I'm going to include function.php. Save, and we are going to do the testing. At this point, I got one mistake, and we are going to try to find what is the mistake. They said it's line 3, and it's something like it's not able to open. In line 3, I found that I have an error with the spelling. Double check all with the spellings and test. Okay, at this point they found for the word rain one entry. I'm going to change the word. I'm going to say 1. We have 5 entries of this one. Now we need to display all the entries. If I continue on my all searches PHP, after this part I want to display all of them. First, I'm going to include the helping text that we didn't add before and the heading. That means the word that we have. Now what I'm going to do is open up PHP. I'm going to loop all my results that got in my query, and I'm going to display on HTML. After this one, I'm going to create, for instance, a H2 to display the idiom. I'm going to close my tag. And in a new line, as a paragraph, this is a PHP, and this is the variable where is all the information. I'm going to display the meaning. And finally, I need to close the while, but just remember this is PHP. We need to open a PHP. I'm going to close the while, and I'm going to close again the PHP. Let's see our results. Now we see that we have 5 results, and we can see the idiom and the meaning, idiom and meaning, and so on. In the next video, we are going to set up how to improve the style of these results.